Brian, we're talking about?
Come on now, get right now.
Come on, man.
Come on now.
What just happened?
He has the biggest hands. I mean,
little misstep right there. It's all right. We got a bunch of segments with you guys.
He went aggressive. He went a little bit too aggressive.
I'm so glad.
If you're here for 5 segments, we have 5 more chances for you to get that right.
That's on Kenny, man. The guy with the...
You see how it feels to have an awkward open?
The bigger guy, it's on him to make sure the connection's not missed.
Sense.
Everybody knows the rules of depth, Kenny.
Except I don't know the rules of depth. Brian, big weekend for the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that seems lost so far this season. Carson Wentz still searching for an identity for his 4-4 team, and the search won't get any easier against Khalil Mack and the Chicago Bears and that defense. But Wentz said the Eagles offense isn't, quote, afraid of former Defensive Player of the Year Khalil Mack. So, Brian, who's got the edge in this matchup?
You know, when I think about the game, I have to start on the defensive side of the ball for the Eagles. And, you know, they've gotten much more healthy. Fletcher Cox is getting healthy. Brandon Graham continues to play well. But more importantly, in the secondary, they got 2 of the starters back, Ronald Darby and Jalen Mills. And getting those 2 guys back is going to help this defense tremendously. And, again, you're facing Mitchell Trubisky, 5 touchdowns on the season. They have problems scoring the football in Chicago. And so when I look at the Eagles defense, I give them the edge. But then you have to flip it over to the offensive side of the ball for the Eagles. And the big question, how do you slow down Khalil Mack? And there's a couple different ways, and I would certainly want to run it by you. To slow down edge rushers, you run away from them, you double team them. Well, how about you just run the football? And that's something that the Eagles did a bunch last week, 41 times against the Buffalo Bills, and they were very successful with it with Miles Sanders. They were very successful with Jordan Howard. And so I think they should just try to do that. When you face a Bears defense that's going to get after the quarterback, run the football, the other thing you have to think about this Bears defense is simple. 2 of the last 3 games, they've given up over 150 yards rushing. They've given up over 150 yards rushing, which to me sounds kind of crazy when you're talking about one of the better defenses in the league. That's something that the Philadelphia Eagles can take advantage of. I think that's where they face, and that's where they start at offensively.
Well, the Eagles had a lot of success up in Buffalo running the football against a pretty good Buffalo front 7. So if they can continue to do that, I think that has to be their identity if they're going to have success on the offensive side of the ball and as a team, keep away from the opposing offense and then being able to move the ball methodically down the field. But if you're going to do that, you can't have a lot of negative plays, and that's the one thing that concerns me about this Philadelphia Eagles team. Don't turn the football over. No negatives in terms of tackles for losses or sacks on your quarterback. That's the area that they've got to make sure that they take care of going up against the Chicago Bears team, because the only real path to victory for the Bears is if their defense is able to steal extra possessions and create short fields for Mitch Trubisky. You learned all you needed to know about how the Bears feel about their quarterback last week against the Chargers when they get the ball on the 21-yard line with 43 seconds left.
And a timeout.
And Matt Nagy runs the clock out and elects to kick that long field goal as opposed to trying to gain more yards and put Eddie Pinheiro in a better situation. I think he did that because he doesn't trust his quarterback. That's not going to change in a week. So I think that's the biggest thing for the Eagles. Take care of the football, no negative plays, and you starve that Chicago Bears offense.
I love Matt Nagy as a play caller. I played against him in college, but not only did you not trust your quarterback, you didn't trust your running back that had a really good game last week. Hand the ball off to Montgomery, allow him to get 5, 6, 7 yards, make it
God forbid a touchdown.
A touchdown,
you don't have to kick the field goal.
You don't have to kick the field goal. That was just a bad coaching job last week.
Our friend from Lock It In, Cousin Sal, and in honor of tonight being Friday Night SmackDown, I'll use one of his lines, which is a wrestling line. This Bears-Eagles match is the old loser leaves town match, where it is the loser of this football game, you can just go ahead and cross them off. All year long with Philly, we've been like, well, can you cross them off given the division? If they can't take the game plan that was so successful against Buffalo and beat a Bears team that is ripping itself apart at the seams because there is so much talent, I actually still think Matt Nagy, even at the game management stuff drove me crazy this weekend, does design an interesting offense. One of those Andy Reid folks, disciples, that the fissure on that team is about the quarterback play and about how everything has to be done, keeping in mind, well, what can we trust our quarterback to do? I've got friends that do radio and media in Chicago. All week long, it has been, who are the best quarterbacks coming out of college? Should they go to Chase Daniel? If you lose to that Bears team coming off that type of loss where they're in last place in the NFC North, then guess what, Philly? You're not good. Like, we can say all this talent, all these expectations, only a half game. If you can't beat this Bears team this week, then you're just a bad football team. And what helps Philadelphia so much is exactly what you said. You playing Buffalo and Chicago in back-to-back weeks is just a gift from the scheduling gods because they're built so similarly. They have so many similarities on the defensive side and on the offensive side, and you were just so successful against Buffalo. Now, I know Chicago's going to expect you to go do the same thing, but at least Philly has a second punch where, okay, you're going to sell out against stopping the run, no problem. We still have a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback back there that if we need to, we can go to the passing game. But that is, to me, if Philly loses this game, it's a wrap for them, which is one of the reasons why I don't think they will lose this.
But Chicago's the same team coming in. The Eagles get Deshaun Jackson back. At least we assume they do. And that has to open up the game a little bit. How do you see that factoring into what the Eagles are going to be able to do?
Well, I think it certainly does open up the game. They haven't had Deshaun Jackson healthy since week 1. And so that's going to open up the field for everyone, Zach Ertz included, who hasn't had a very much impact all season.
Because there's been no real deep threat.
Absolutely. So they haven't had that. And so I think it opens up things. But here's the thing. In order to get the ball deep, you got to have a 5 to 7 step drop. And that's the danger territory against this defense because those guys, they're running to that spot, that 5-step drop spot. That's where they're getting to on their pass rushes. So, again, I go right back to the run game. Because Chicago's not going to put up a lot of points offensively, you know that you can be much more patient with your run game if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. I would stick with that, and I wouldn't worry as much about getting the ball deep. I wouldn't worry about as much trying to get Deshaun Jackson involved in the offense as early. We're going to run the football until they stop it, and once they dedicate 8, 9 guys to stop the run, then we'll take some shots down the football field and see where we go from there.
No, you're absolutely right. The game plan for the Eagles on offense has to start with developing a plan for Khalil Mack. But overall, I think this Eagles team has to start fast. This is the first game of a 3-game homestand. It's an opportunity for them to gain some ground. They're already behind. They lost a head-to-head to the Dallas Cowboys. So they've got to build some momentum for their season. And if you're facing a team that's struggling in the Chicago Bears, if you start fast and get on them early, you continue to have that doubt with that Bears sideline. So I think this is a situation where if the Eagles handle their business in the first half, they can put this game away early.
And you mentioned the 3-game homestand, but the next 2 are New England and Seattle. Yeah. So if you can't beat the Bears at home, the hell chance you have against those 2 teams.
Right. All right, Brian, stick around. Coming up, did Jimmy G prove he's more than just a game manager? Talk some 49ers next on First Things First.
Damn game. You gotta
in your bias.
As you are, because you picked the Nationals after Jessica Mendoza sat here and convinced you.
We're talking about you right
I understand.
now.
There we go. I got it. But what I'm saying to you is this: if you have a 2-1 lead and your ace, keep this into consideration. We're talking about starting pitchers who show up and pitch 6 to 7 innings. We just witnessed Greinke, who's the 3rd starter, go 6 and a 3rd full inning, okay, and hold them to 1 hit ball. Why is it wrong for me to then say, okay, Cole is better, and he only got 2.5 innings that he would have to pitch? Why couldn't he shut down and hold him to a 2-1 lead? You watched Madison Bumgarner years ago against Kansas City on 3 days rest, if I remember correctly. Pick the complete game. Don't tell me that it's far beyond the realm of comprehension. As much as I love Soto, and as much as I respect Hendricks and all these boys, and Rendon, I can't forget him. Don't tell me that it is beyond the realm of comprehension on your own turf for a game 7 for the best pitcher who's probably going to win the Cy Young to hold you scoreless and 2 innings. Come on. I'm taking that bet.
That's still a long way from saying he would have gotten 11 out and not given up the 1-day game. Here's what I was saying earlier about that. I think it's in front of us. Fundamentally doesn't understand. The high-level moment is not when you're up a couple of runs in the 9th inning with no one on base, right? I don't know what you're saying in home. The high-level moment is that the other team is feeling itself. They're coming back on you. It's a 1-run game. Right. It's late. It's the 7th.